Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. This week's guest I've interviewed before about his separation from his wife 10 years ago and also about his co-parenting tips. Now, Jem Fuller has also written some books which provoke important conversations. His first book, What Matters Most, is the distillation of the most important and effective strategies taught on his Conscious Series retreats in the Himalayas, Bali and Australia. It covers 4 conversations in a free, easy read. They are identity, connection, purpose, and collaboration and compassion. He has now written a second book, The Art of Conscious Communication, a series. The first book of this series is for thoughtful men. It encourages us to rewrite the stereotypes of men, to access our emotions and abilities, and to expand our self-awareness. So, without no further ado, let's welcome Jem to the podcast. Hi, Jem. How are you? Welcome again to the podcast, Jem. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on again, Claire.
I know.
It's good that you're not sick of me yet.
No. Definitely not. Definitely not. There is so much wisdom that you impart on these podcasts, so that's great. And today we are talking about your books, which are basically around conscious communication. Your first book was What Matters Most, which was around your retreats and your conscious communication retreats that you do in the Himalayas, Bali, Australia, and all of those sort of places. Is that with couples or individuals?
No, not necessarily. There are some retreats that my partner and I run for couples. And the one that we ran, actually it was last August. It seems like just the other day, but it was last August. We found a window in amongst all the restrictions here in Australia to run a retreat for executives and their partners. So rather than, quite often the executive will go off on a retreat and their partner's at home going, oh, you're always away with work. So we said, well, let's run a retreat for you, but you bring your partner. So it was a couples retreat of sorts, kind of high level, people who work a lot and are very successful. So that was lovely. But the retreats in the Himalaya are not couples. They're just anybody. The retreats in Bali were, for years, they were a woman's retreat. So I was in the reasonably unusual position of being a male hosting women's retreats, and I felt very honoured to be able to do that. So that was for years, and then when I partnered with my current partner, with Talia, she started coming and co-facilitating those retreats with me. And so that book that you referred to, What Matters Most, is the content. Essentially, it's the content put into a short book of the retreats that we run in the Himalaya and in Bali.
And then just recently you've written a second book, which is The Art of Conscious Communication, a series which you are turning into a series of books. You've only written one. They've only written the first book, and I know we've been talking about all the other books that you want to write within this conscious communication series, but the first book is for thoughtful men.
Yeah, it is. And when I first started writing the book, before I had the idea that it might be a series, I was just writing a book for everybody about the art of conscious communication. And I engaged a book writing mentor, Susan Pearce, wonderful book writing mentor and writer herself. She's a published author and best-selling author, and she's a wonderful mentor. Shouts out to you, Susan, if you ever hear this. And Susan said to me, look, I'm loving the manuscript and I'm loving what you're writing about, but you need to pick an audience. It's too broad. You're writing for everybody. You need to pick an audience. And she said, can I suggest something? And I said, yes, of course. That's why I've engaged you as a mentor. And she said, I think this book would be really good for men.
Wow.
I think they really could do with hearing it. And I think it's very timely because, here in Australia, and I guess in other parts of the world as well, dysfunctional public male figures, the handful of them, have been called out on inappropriate and completely abhorrent behaviour.
Yeah.
And the community is crying for change. The community is like, we need to evolve this brand of men. We need to evolve what is culturally and societally acceptable. It's no good. It just can't fly anymore, And look, Claire, I don't know about you, but I reckon most men, as with most humans, are good people. They wake up in the morning. They don't wake up in the morning kind of scheming how they can go and hurt people. Most people wake up in the morning going, I'm going to do my best today. Like, life's a bit tough right now, or life's this, or life's good, or whatever it is. But most people set out into their day to try and do their best, right? It's just that men, we're talking about men now, men in our society have only been indoctrinated into this old paradigm, this old patriarchal system, which is becoming less and less relevant and certainly isn't functional. But we haven't been given the tools on how to access our emotions. We haven't been given the tools on how to express our vulnerability, or to even acknowledge that we can be vulnerable in moments, let alone talking more deeply about issues that we just don't even broach. So I think there's in this book anyway, I've hopefully given, and the feedback so far has been that it's working. Hopefully I'm giving strategies to men and to women that help us all raise the bar, help us all improve and, get better at being us.
Yeah, and I like the point that you said about the fact that you're giving strategies to women as well, because, look, I agree with you. Like, I think men need a hand in the world that we're creating at the moment. I think that women have this high expectation, or it's an expectation. I'm not going to say it's high expectation, but they have an expectation, and we're just expecting men to achieve that expectation, and we're not going to help them to come along and do, to do what we're requiring and we're requesting, and the respect and trust and all of those things that go with it. And I think blokes have a tough time of it. They're pulled from the male side, but they're wanting, like you said, they don't grow, they're not there waking up every morning going, oh, well, I'm just going to be misogynistic, sexual, I'm just not going to, that's what I'm going to be today. I think it's a habit. It's something that's been, nurtured, indoctrinated for the last so many hundreds of years. Because let's face it, it's not just the last 10 years. It's hundreds of years, thousands of years,
perhaps even thousands. Yeah, and it's the patriarchal structure that is that we are all kind of to a certain degree oppressed under. A boy is growing up and being told by his father and maybe even his mother, who knows, and by society at large, being told, don't cry like a girl, toughen up, suck it up, be a man, don't be soft, don't show your emotions. I got brought up like this.
Well, I'm a girl and I got brought up like that as well.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Right. And then you get a boy who wants to play with the Barbie dolls and he gets chastised for that. Right. Or then you get a boy that wants to dress up, that wants to dress up and put dress ups on and have fun with that. And they get told not to do that. So this is a societal structural problem. And men have grown up in this same patriarchal system that needs to change. It's the system, I believe, that needs to change. But having said that, the only way that can happen is for us as individuals and then collectively as communities to start creating change in the ways that we hold each other accountable. So rather than the blokes on the building site, and a woman walks past and the bloke does the wolf whistle thing and his mates kind of feel uncomfortable because deep down inside they know it's disrespectful and wrong, but they don't say anything because they don't know how to call their mate on it, that we start to give ourselves tools to go, hey, dude, I don't reckon that's okay. How do you think she felt right then? So you're objectifying her, and to have those conversations which we haven't been able to have before.
Yeah, and look, and in those situations, I'm sitting there going, well, I'm wondering if that person didn't do that because of the bullying situation. But if one person does it, if one person speaks up and does it, and the other people who agree back them up, then you're not going to get down that situation. Look, I think we're moving there slowly.
Yeah.
I think people are now feeling confident to actually have their say.
Yeah.
To have a conscious communication.
Yeah, to be more aware. And it's not just in the way that men treat women.
Yeah.
It's in the way that men don't feel able to access their inner world and then to communicate that or share that. So, another example in the book that I use is just say, for example, there was one of the blokes in the boys group, and he experienced anxiety. He had anxiety attacks, maybe even, but no one ever knew because he was too embarrassed to say anything. And so then one night the boys are all going out down to the pub, and they go, "Come on, mate, come down the pub." And he goes, he's actually in anxiety. He's got knots in his tummy and he's experiencing anxiety. And he says, "Oh, no, I'm not coming." And they're like, "Come on, come to the bloody pub." And he says, "Oh, no, I've got crook guts. I'm just going to go home." And his mates just go, "Oh, you bloody wimp, whatever, see you tomorrow." And they go off down the pub, right?
That's so Australian.
So rather than that, how would it be if he said to his mates, "I'm not feeling quite right, I've got crook guts," and one of his mates goes, "Are you all right, mate? What's going on with your guts?" And he goes, "Oh, no, it's nothing, it's nothing." "You sure, man? What's going on? I'm worried about you. Like, talk me through it." And he goes, "Oh, well, actually, I think I'm getting anxiety." And his mate goes, "Oh, you too? Oh my God. I went and saw this psychologist. She's awesome. I'll give you her number." Let's talk properly about what's going on rather than this shame or, I'm not tough enough or strong enough and all the other blokes have got it together, so I've got to just keep it to myself. That needs to change.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I've interviewed a few people on this podcast recently regarding suicide, male suicide, and just in general suicide, and the traits that are there regarding suicide is that the person who feels suicidal is feeling as though they have to do it on their own. They're feeling alone, they're feeling isolated, and they're feeling as though whatever problem they've got or thing that's going on in their life, it's up to me to sort this problem and for me to deal with the issue on my own, and not to go and get help and not to basically speak to somebody.
Yeah, and that that kind of segues back to the book that I've just had published, which is The Art of Conscious Communication, and talking about how important communication is, because for many reasons, but one of the reasons that you were just touching on then, Claire, is that communication is the bridge between isolation and connection. And isolation is not healthy for a human being. We are a societal creature, and even for our introverts who love their time alone, they still need connection.
Yeah,
they still need to feel connected to someone. And I mean, there's plenty of studies showing that people who live in isolation unwantingly they die sooner. They're more prone to disease and ill health and all of these different things that have been measured. So we are a communal societal creature. We need each other. And obviously over the last couple of years of restrictions globally, we've noticed suicide rates go up and mental health being more of an issue than ever before. And this has been partly because of isolation. So communication being that bridge, it's really important that we learn how to communicate. And if someone's feeling suicidal and they don't feel like they can communicate, and communication as well, by the way, comes from the Latin word which means a sharing and to make common. So to feel like you and I have something in common, that's communication. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So okay. So, and I'm not sure whether you've just answered this, so apologies if you have, okay. But what is conscious communication?
Yeah, no, great question. So I just spoke about communication itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the more conscious we are of something, the more aware of it we are, right? If you're more self-conscious, then the more aware of yourself you are. If you're more conscious of somebody else, then the more aware of them you are. So the more conscious you are in communication, the more aware you are of the bigger picture of the communication. So what is the purpose of this communication? And how am I potentially getting in the way of this communication and the success of it? Am I judgmental and closed-minded and opinionated right now, or am I really seeking to understand this other person? And this other person right now, the more conscious I am of them, where are they at right now? Are they feeling uncomfortable, or are they feeling easy? Do I think that they're understanding me, or are they kind of looking confused? Like, just to be more conscious of the bigger picture.
Yeah. Okay. And with that consciousness, that's what you're saying is to be empathetic to that other person that you're communicating with, to be conscious of what you're saying, what you're thinking, and how that may influence their position within that communication.
Yeah, look, I mean, empathy is a part of it, and sometimes helpful and sometimes not. I mean, if you go too far down the empath scale and then you get swept up in the other person's state, so just say the other person is deeply miserable and really struggling, and as an empath you then feel that too, and you come down into the well of despair and you're stuck there with them, that might not serve. If the communication was about you lending a helping hand, it might be more functional to access some compassion rather than empathy, but that's a whole other story. But generally speaking, being more aware of the other person, being more aware of yourself and the other person or people in the communication. So that's, there's a whole book on it.
Yeah, you've got plenty others that you're going to be writing. So, okay. So how do you start to have this conscious communication, like this skill?
I believe it starts with yourself. I believe the place to start is by being more aware of how you communicate with yourself. And it's funny, if we pay close attention, because it's the voice inside your head's always there, right? There's always that narration. When you're not talking to somebody else or watching the telly, there's a narration going on in your head. And when you make a mistake or you fall short of something that you were aiming to do, we chastise ourselves. We come down hard on ourselves. And when you pay close attention to the quality of that communication, it can be horrifying. Listen to the way we talk to ourselves. We talk more horribly to ourselves than we would to anyone else.
Yes, that's right.
And this communication is forming the relationship with self. And this is the relationship you have with yourself, which is the relationship you have with your past and present moment, which is the quality of your mind to a large degree. So if you're beating yourself up all the time and calling yourself, all the expletives under the sun and giving yourself a really hard time in your head, the quality of your state of mind isn't great, and then so therefore the quality of your experience of the rest of life isn't great. If you're having a really tough time in here, and to those people listening, I'm pointing at my head. If you're having a really tough time in your head, you can walk out the day on a beautiful sunny blue sky day and be miserable.
Oh, yeah.
And it's gloomy to you, and vice versa. You might be in a wonderful state of mind and you've just had a really adorable meal with your loved one and you're ecstatic and you're in love and you're feeling wonderful, and you walk outside and it's freezing cold and pouring with rain and you're like, I'm singing in the rain. Like you're on top of the world.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right? We've all been there.
So your state of mind matters. And this state of mind has a lot to do with your relationship with self. So in the book, it starts with the chapter, it starts with you. So let's talk about the communication you have with yourself.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's extremely important it's just how we frame things within our heads. And if you've been going through, so if there's always been, an external factor, say for example your culture that you've grown up in, or the school that you went to, or your parents to a certain extent as well, they've always said, why can't you do this, or why aren't you able to do that, or why did you clean that dish when you didn't do that very well, or whatever, right? Then that's you're being told that, and that's then constantly what you're then saying to yourself as such in various different situations and scenarios. And it is hard to change that, but you've also got to be conscious that you're saying that to yourself, haven't you? Because it's about I'm trying to think of an example.
It's okay.
Sorry, my brain's not working. But I'm trying to think of an example that where you actually say, I don't know.
If you get told growing up that you're not good enough, you believe it.
Yeah.
And then if you believe that you're not good enough, you start to distort the information from around you to match that belief. So your version of reality is that you are not good enough. So when something doesn't go right, your subconscious thinking is, oh, I knew that wouldn't work because I knew I wasn't good enough, right? I'm such an idiot. I'm such a dickhead. I'm such a fool. We say this to ourselves, and it's not your fault. You didn't arrive in this moment with a clean slate. You arrived in this moment as a product of the past, as a product of your environment, as a product of your genealogy, as a product of your parenting and upbringing and everything, right? Everything made you what you are right now. And so we're completely damaged goods. That's what we are. But I think that when we have conversations like the one that you and I are having, Claire, I think that, we can elevate the possibilities. We can elevate the consciousness of our own experience of being here in this life. And we can start to think, oh, wow, oh my God, I do talk to myself like that. And I wonder how that does impact me. And I wonder where that came from. And was that when my dad lost his temper and beat me up as a kid? What was it? I don't know. And it all happened. It's not about blaming or retribution. It's about understanding and awareness and going, well, how can I smooth out the creases? What can I do to heal my relationship with self? And what I've found anyway, from my own experience of being on for the last decade, I've been on a very conscious journey of self-healing and healing out the creases and acceptance, is that the more of that work that I do, the less it's about me. The more okay I am with myself, the less it's about me and my interactions with others. So I've been able to just become more and more present for others. I can sit, and when I'm listening to you, I don't have a whole bunch of crap going on in my head. I'm just clear, and I'm just sitting there seeking to understand you.
It's interesting what you were saying, because I was sitting here listening to you with things going on in my head, because that's what I'm doing, is listening to you going, oh yeah, no, there was a situation like such and such and things like that. So it is about being present and listening. And I know that when I started on this journey that I'm on, if I started to get my mindset into like that negative, that I can't cope, I can't deal with this, or I'm feeling lonely or whatever, I would actually, God love YouTube, but I would go on YouTube and I would play positive, affirming, I would watch positive conversations on YouTube regarding how your life is special, how you being born, you just being born is like a 1 in a 4 billion chance, or whatever the stats are. And all of those sort of things, to actually make my brain actually reconfigure itself and go, hey, actually, you are, you're quite special, you're quite X, Y, and Z. And I had to try and reframe my mood for that day. I mean, I wasn't feeling like that all the time, but like it would be, but there's days. So that's
great to be able to do that. That's great to be able to do that. And we get to choose what we ingest. We get to choose what we scroll over on our devices. We get to choose, and it matters. It really matters. It's interesting on my social media platforms, I don't get all the violence and horrible stuff showing up on my screen because the algorithms know I don't click on it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
And I'm happy to have my head in the sand with that stuff. I know there's violence going on out there. I know that. I'm not stupid. I just don't want to watch porn, violent porn, watching people hurt each other or be horrible to each other or shout at each other and argue with each other. I just don't want to watch it. But it's interesting what I find it fascinating that these social media algorithms are kind of almost mirroring this law of attraction thing that happens naturally. I was coaching this guy years ago, and he said, "Oh, Geelong, the town near where I live." He's going, "Oh, Geelong, man, it's turning to the dogs. It's crazy, and there's so many violent people around, all this crazy stuff." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, like I've seen people at the traffic lights getting out of their cars and having punch-ons, and the other night, in the middle of the night, we had this ice addict come and knock on our door, and she was raving lunatic, saying we'd taken her house from her, and I had to do a citizen's arrest on the front lawn, and blah 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 blah." Right? And I said, because I'm thinking, wow, we live in the same town. I don't see any of this.
Yeah, no.
I don't see this, right? And so I said to him, "Hey, I'm curious. Show me what social media do you scroll on?" He goes, "Oh, I scroll on a bit of Facebook." I said, "Show me your feed." And he opened his feed, and we scrolled through his feed, and it was all that stuff.
Wow.
It was people having blues. It was people arguing. It was fights. It was all this stuff, and it was showing up on his feed. And I said, "Hey, dude, let's run an experiment. I want you to purposefully go onto social media every day and click on positive stuff, click on good human stories, click on stories where humans are helping each other and nice and kind to each other, and just see what happens." So he did this for a month. And then when I caught up with him a month later, I said, "What's changed?" He goes, "Dude, I haven't seen one fight out in the streets." Now, that might sound a bit woo-woo, and I don't know the quantum physics behind how it works, really, Claire, but there's something going on, right? What you focus on is what you get.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly.
That was what
I was about to say. If you say to somebody, right, look for everything that's green in the room or whatever, and then you say, right, close your eyes. Now open them and tell me what's red, what's green or whatever. What's red, whatever colour I said.
What's red, and they can't think of anything.
They can't think of anything. No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So you're right. It is what it's like when you go, "Oh, I'm going to buy this new car," and then you see that everyone's got it in all different colours, because your mind then focuses on that. It's like if you want to be successful or whatever, you focus on what you want to do, and your mind will find a way of getting you there. Our brains, we don't even understand half the stuff that goes on in our heads, because that's right. We've just not got there. We've not even, we've just not even touched the surface on how our brains keep us alive for the 80s, 100, however many years you're, privileged to live. They keep us alive without us even thinking about it. We take a breath and we don't even think about it. Our heart beats however many beats, a day or whatever, and we don't even think about it. Everything carries on. And I don't know, there's people who basically think we could heal ourselves by focusing and meditating and focusing on the various different parts of us, broken bones or whatever, and going down that avenue. So there's so much that we don't know, and I love that there's the great mystery, because I believe that anything within the laws of the universe is possible. Yeah. And we don't understand the laws of the universe. We thought we did. We thought we understood, and then we went, "Oh, time and space is not what we think it is," right? And then quantum physicists keep discovering stuff that we can't explain. And the more these scientists uncover, the more they realize we don't know a whole bunch of stuff. And I love that. Yeah. I love that. For me, that's potential and possibility. It's like, well, there's certainly a lot more possible than we can comprehend. So, that gives me hope. And as we look at the dysfunctions of us as a species, and we look at psychopaths invading countries and horrible stuff going on, which is very disheartening, then I also consciously choose to focus on, the amazing stuff that we are doing. And, I subscribe to positive news outlets where they're real news, but they're focusing on all the good stuff we're doing, all the advancements we're making for the planet and for each other. And I consume this news because it makes me feel good. And and I focus on positive people. I hang out with people like you, and there's lots of us, right? The more you look out there for people who are positive and optimistic and doing their bit to try and make the world a better place, there's lots of us. And I choose to focus on those aspects. Why? Because it makes my life great. I live a great life. I live a pretty happy life, and I'd rather live a happy life because it's going to be over pretty quickly. I don't mean to be a doomsdayer, but that's just the facts. Well, no, and although you say it's going to be over pretty quickly, right, and people go, "Oh, but we're going to go on till we're 80," it just goes, man.
Yeah, and you don't 100%. And look, in my mind, I believe I'm going to live till old age. I do, but in reality, I don't know that that's necessarily the truth. My little brother died when he was 30 on his motorbike, gone, head on, like disappeared, gone, and he lived life to the full. So, look, I don't know when I'm going to die. Yeah. No one knows.
Nobody knows.
Die.
Yeah.
But we are definitely going to die.
Yeah. Well, that is the one thing in our life that we do know, right? We are going to die, but we just don't know when. So the actual thing is, we need to live our lives as best we can while we're here, because I can guarantee you that everyone that woke up that morning that died that day didn't think, today's going to be my last day. I'm going to die in a couple of hours. They didn't think that. Yeah. So, it's,
Yeah. And when we say life is short, and then people go, but I've got until I'm 100. That's a long way away. It's like,
not really.
It's May 2022 already.
I know.
May. Hang on, it was just 2020 the other day, wasn't it, when we were doing this pandemic thing?
Yeah, can we remember
May 2022? It was like, wow, time really does fly. And in the grand scheme of everything, humans have only been here. We've only been here as a species for a second, in the grand scheme of the evolution of the universe.
Years,
right?
That we've been
and so to think that we're going to be here forever as well is completely egotistical and unrealistic. And who knows, we might invent some kind of artificial intelligence that hangs around after we've gone. But us as a species, we ain't going to be here forever. And so it really is this carpe diem thing. It really is, how can I live today in the best way possible? How can I communicate more consciously with the people that matter to me today? Right? How can I love my partner and my children better today? How can I work better with my team today? Not in 10 years' time because I've got all the time in the world. These relationships matter. They really do. And as much as we've got ourselves into a corporate predicament of profit-driven performance, that's not actually what matters. And I think the world's starting to wake up to that. And COVID's certainly brought this to our attention more as well. It's our well-being, it's our resilience, it's our relationships, it's our connections that actually really matter.
Yeah. No, I agree. Look, with all of this with all of your retreats and everything that you've done, and conversations, because you also mentor leaders as well, don't you, with all of this conscious communication as such. What has been the most important thing that you've actually learnt along the way as such? And I suppose
in terms of coaching leaders, are you talking about specifically?
No, just in terms, overall, what's been the most important thing that you've learned?
Oh, look, there's lots. I think the first one that comes to mind, perhaps because we were just talking about it, is that the quality of your life is directly correlated to the quality of your relationships. And I'm not just making this up. This comes from research. And I think that's really important to remember because, I did a post on this morning. You can have the biggest house, but if your relationship is in a terrible place, your life ain't great. You can have the flashiest car, but if your relationship isn't good, it doesn't matter. You can have all the money in the world. You can have all the career success in the world, but if your relationships are toxic, none of it matters. Your life is miserable. So our relationships really are, I believe, the most important thing, and hence a book on communication, because that's all about relationship. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is to learn, read, research, study, learn from people who know stuff I don't know about human behavior and relating, and how I can continually get better at it. I'm a much, much better partner now to my other half than I was in my previous marriage, because I just didn't know the stuff I know now.
Yeah, this is the thing. Where do people go to actually start this process? I know you said they need to start to work on themselves, but is it just to Google self-help books, better communication, buy your book?
It's so broad. Yeah, get my book.
Get your book. That's a good start.
I actually mean it. Yeah. It's funny that I can wholeheartedly recommend that now, because it's had I don't know how many copies have sold now, maybe 500 or 600, and the emails that are coming in are great, and I'm so relieved that it's helping people. I'm getting lots of emails of people saying, "You don't know me. I've just read your book. Thank you so much."
Wow.
So yeah, go buy my book. There's heaps of really good strategies in there for men and women. But look, also, where else to start? One of the books that really helped me back in the day was Changing Your Mind by Joe Dispenza.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a little bit woo-woo, but it's also...
No, I love Joe Dispenza.
Yep.
Love
so
him.
that was pretty cool. Any Eckhart Tolle stuff, the earlier stuff, The Power of Now, amazing. In terms of your relationship with self, which I think is the place to start. Yeah, I don't know. I made up a whole bunch of stuff, but get my book. You'll see what I'm talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, do you think if somebody is in a place that's not great and knows they need to seriously look at where they're sitting, and you know, and I'm sort of thinking back 4 years ago to when I first became a single parent, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? There was anxiety, you know, there was all of these factors that were coming in, like how am I going to cope? I'm on my own, all of these other factors that are coming in. And I got through it. I'm 4 years through this and I'm at the other side, and I feel as though I can consciously communicate with people, and I'm aware, and I've got more empathy, and I suppose through doing these podcasts, and this may be my conscious communication, because I learned so much from these podcasts. And also, like you say, we're human beings. We need communication. And I was in Melbourne locked down for 260 odd days or whatever, so I needed communication. And although my 5-year-old, because he was 5 when we were in lockdown, although my 5-year-old was great, he wasn't really that adult communication. So maybe I generated podcasting just to be able to communicate.
To connect and communicate.
To connect and communicate. But do you say go and get therapy and try and because therapy is not just there to... It's there to personally develop you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, look, definitely. If you feel to do that, do that. Of course, the therapist, whoever it is, matters. You know, you could have one psychologist who did the same university degree as another psychologist, and one of them might be amazingly helpful for you, and the other one might be just not. And that's not even necessarily to do with how good they are as a psychologist. You can have one coach, you can have a life coach who helps you change your whole life. You could have another life coach who's just a whole lot of hot air and nothing really happens. You know, your counselor, you can go to a great counselor or a not so great counselor. So yes, I'm an advocate for getting help. Reach out and get help. You know, there's this stigma around getting help with mental health, and it's crazy. When your pipes are broken, you get a plumber.
Yeah.
You know, when the lights are not working, you get a sparky. You know, when your mental health's not great, go and get some help. There are people who've dedicated their lives to understanding strategies to help you feel better. So yes, I'm an advocate for getting help, and at the same time, a free kind of practice. It doesn't cost you money to dedicate some time each morning to some positive self-affirmations. And I used to think affirmations were just a woo-woo, hippie, Eastern traditional mantra thing, and I thought they were a crock until I understood the science behind them. And there is a science behind when we say something out loud repetitively, the neurons are wiring together, right? So we're creating our own belief around self. So the main affirmation that I said that got me through my midlife crisis where I lost everything was, I am good enough just the way I am. I used to say it many times every day. I still say it to myself. I am good enough just the way I am. It was about self-love and self-acceptance. And I said it so many thousands of times, the neurons wired together, and I started to believe it. And like we said before, when what you focus on is what you get. So when I started to believe that I was good enough and I deserved love and abundance and happiness, guess what started showing up? So if any of your listeners are feeling stuck, this is a great place to start. Just pick a positive self-belief affirmation and put it on high repeat.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I usually say something like that when I'm in a situation where I go, like if I'm presenting or if I'm going into a meeting or a situation where I'm nervous, I'm anxious, and I'm just like, no, I am good enough. I'm good enough to do this. I wouldn't be put in this situation if I wasn't good enough. And also there were some situations where I go, well, they just have to accept me. This is me, right? This is me. I am awesome. Yeah. Okay. So, and you just go into that situation and all the things you're worried about before you deal with anything, your day or anything, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to happen anyway. And
yes, I know. We worry so much about stuff that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And also I was listening to a podcast this morning, actually, which is funny. And there was a lady on there, Mel Robbins, who's awesome. Oh, yeah. And when she gets into an anxious situation, just goes, she just put hand on heart and she says, I'm okay currently. Currently, at this point in time, I am okay. I am safe.
Yeah.
I'm okay. And it was quite bizarre because her even saying it on the podcast this morning made me feel calm and relaxed and chilled. Yeah. And I wasn't even saying it to myself. I wasn't anxious or anything like that. But it was just about saying, I'm safe and I'm okay. And it's just like, I'm okay currently. This point in time, this now is good.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about all the other stuff.
And 99.9% of the time, this current moment is actually fine.
Yeah.
The anxiety is all about a projection into something that may or may not happen in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. So look, where can our listeners get in contact with you?
You can contact me easily through my website, gemfuller.com. That's where you can also grab the book, watch the TEDx talk, all the bits and bobs. If you want to follow me on socials, I post helpful stuff. I hope it's helpful. Daily on Instagram, Gem Fuller. I'm on LinkedIn for the more businessy type stuff, Gem Fuller. I don't particularly like Facebook, but my marketing team have told me I have to be doing stuff on there. So there's stuff on there as well. Actually, if you are a leader and you're interested in joining our community of modern leaders talking specifically about communication, how to create engagement in your teams, we've put a group together recently and there's going to be some online, free online webinars speaking directly to that. Just you can email me, gem@gemfuller.com. Just find any of those ways to reach out and either the assistants or business manager will find it and pass it on to me and we can start talking.
Cool. Awesome. So look, my final question is, and it's a bit of a Tim Ferriss question really, so I'm stealing it from him, is if you could have a billboard on a motorway or by a busy train station or whatever, what would you put on that billboard?
3 words.
Yeah?
You made it.
And what does that mean? If I was reading it, I'd made it like, that's what I'm reading.
Okay. So the subtext would be, you made it to this moment.
Cool.
You made it here. It's like we're always trying to get somewhere in life. Oh, one day I'll have this, or one day I'll get this, or one day I'll be there, and one day I'll be happier, and one day I'll have more money. Hang on. You're here. You made it to this moment successfully. There you are, sitting there right here, right now. And I think we could do well to stop and smell the roses a bit more and appreciate where we got to.
I agree with you. I agree. We're not grateful for what we've got in our lives. We're always striving. Well, I'm grateful, but like we're always striving
Humans,
for the next thing. And then when we get the next thing, we are. Well, I want the next thing.
Oh, like people think about it like this. People are striving or hankering for whatever that addiction thing is. So cigarettes, I've got to have a cigarette, got to have a cigarette. They go downstairs, they go outside and they smoke this cigarette and then they finish that cigarette and they're like, oh, I need a mint. And they get a mint and then they go, oh, now I need a coffee. And, it's like just in the moment of eating the mint, do you actually sit there and go, oh, wow, I'm satisfied now. I got that mint. No, we chew the mint really quickly, swallow it and go off for the next thing, and we are like that as a species. And it's kind of crazy. We're always craving the next thing. And I think, just to come into a moment and go, oh, let me just be in this moment and express a little bit of gratitude for what I've got right now.
Yeah. Just sit there and be grateful for it, because there's so many other people in this world who don't have what you have. You'd be surprised. And
completely. And don't worry about becoming complacent. People go, oh, but if I practice this life of gratitude in the moment and I just sit still mindfully in the moment, then I'll never do anything. And I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. You're going to end up getting off the couch and doing something, so, so I don't think
it makes it, I think you have a happier life if you basically are grateful for what you've got. And yes, I would love to have a big house and a swimming pool and a, helicopter, maybe. I'm not sure about the helicopter, but, fly business class, whatever. But I don't. But I can still get on a plane. There are a lot of people who can't get on a plane, and all of those sort of situations.
Yeah.
So although I don't have the, VIP, I'm still grateful for being able to pay for a seat to get on a plane to fly to the UK, to America, wherever, and have that flexibility. So, I agree with you. That's awesome. Look, I know you're really busy. So, look, thank you so much for spending the time and coming to speak to us again. I love speaking to you. I love talking to you. I think what you're doing with the books and with your secret project that you've told me about that I can't tell anyone about are great. Like when you've done your secret project that I can't tell anyone about, come back and speak to me again.
Absolutely.
And wish you best of luck with everything. And
awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks so much, Claire. And thanks for having me on. And, the conversations are so easy and not only enjoyable, but enlightening and worthwhile. I think the things that you're talking about should be spoken about. And the fact that you're making the effort to record them and share them is a wonderful thing. So go you, and thanks again for having me on.
Thanks, Jem. No, thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources and show notes, go to our website www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single and Human podcast.